What up, Bulls Nation? Peck here. We got a live CHGO Bulls pregame coming up for y'all right around the corner. Bulls taking on the Washington Wizards, out for revenge after their ugly blowout loss to them back on New Year's Day. We're going to talk a bit more about what Billy has been saying about the integrity of the game recently, talk about the Bulls getting off to slow starts in first quarters, Zach LaVine's hot streak, and then who's in, who's out tonight. Coming up next. What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome into CHGO Bulls pregame, coming to you live from our studios here in West Loop, downtown Chicago. I'm Peck, Bulls_Peck. That is Big Dave. Bam! BAWL Sports, four-time champ, Uncle Will _Perdue 32.
Bing bong.
Queen of the controls, the one and only Katie Duffy. Will to go Gottlieb at the UC for tonight's action. Bulls taking on the Wizards. Make sure you're following him for his in-game updates. Will_Gottlieb.
Yeah.
Happy Friday. Happy weekend, everybody. If you are in Chicago or the surrounding areas, hope you are warm and safe inside somewhere and not out on these gross, snowy streets.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, how was your commute in? All good?
Yeah, it was safe. Like, everybody wasn't acting a complete idiot and stuff like that. But, no, the floor is yours, sir. You've been out for a while. People want to hear the dulcet tones of the mustache-having Matt Peck. You give the people what the hell they want, sir.
I'm back. Hi.
He's here.
Yeah,
in the flesh.
Was taken out of the rotation for a while with a non-COVID illness, but on the upswing, feeling better. Thank you to you. Thank you to Katie. Thank you to Will to Go for holding it down for the past couple of days. I am so sorry I wasn't here on Wednesday to talk about that iconic performance from Patrick Williams.
Oh, my God.
All two of them points.
Oh, man.
I would have
Big
loved
points.
to be here for that.
Big points. The people wanted to discuss it. I didn't even want to talk about it. The people did.
I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah, I didn't.
I saw that clip that Katie threw together of you guys just reading off some of the comments.
Yeah, man. Dude, it was rough. It was rough. And all warranted at the same time. Yeah.
Who are more Bulls fans mad at these days? Patrick or Billy?
Ooh.
I feel like Billy has a pretty strong base.
Yeah, there's a base.
Bulls fans
there's a base there for Billy. I would say Patrick is bubbling up. You know what I mean? In 2025, he's coming aboard up over the top. So yeah, it's his is right in your face, I guess. So
I don't know if a player who just signed a $90 million contract can be on a hot seat of any kind. And honestly, I don't think that Billy is on one either.
Yeah.
But speaking of Billy, Mr. Perdue, I know that you wanted to dive a bit further into what he said before your game on Monday night when he was being asked by some of the traveling beat about the pick because they were playing the Spurs that night.
Mm-hmm.
And his quote of saying, quote, "No one is saying to me regarding the front office, hey, wait a second with this draft pick. It's been about the integrity of competition," end quote. And you having perhaps a question about whether or not that integrity is intact. The floor is yours.
Well, time for a filibuster.
Let's go.
Oh, the kids love a filibuster.
The kids know what a filibuster is.
The adults.
Go back to school.
So we've always asked ourselves a lot on this show, what is the direction of this organization and this team?
Yes.
So if we want to take Billy at his word, is they're trying to win every single game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so regardless if I agree or disagree, then that's how we should evaluate you moving forward then.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because it's about the integrity of the game.
Makes sense.
Okay, simple enough.
Mm-hmm.
So you make that comment and you step up and you beat the Spurs. But now for me, because, I was a little confused about what actually, we're reshaping, but we're not even considering the pick, right? We're just focusing on getting better. Okay, but then you throw in about the integrity and nobody's talked to me about losing. So, okay, you're looking to win games. And this team has struggled for whatever reason. And this isn't new. This has kind of been, their MO for a long time.
Yeah.
in first quarters, sleepwalking, whatever you want to call it, just not coming out looking focused, looking prepared, looking energetic. And it wasn't like the second game of a back-to-back against the Pacers. Just the first quarter alone, you shot 4 of 17 from 3. 1 of 7 in the first quarter, 4 of 17 in the first half, 7 turnovers in the first quarter, 14 in the first half. When you had 13 per game in the previous 2 games, you had 5 turnovers in the first 5 minutes.
It's impressive.
So to me, that's not necessarily jiving with what you say we're looking to accomplish and the results we're seeing on the floor. So I've asked this question in the past when I was at NBC Sports Chicago. I asked the question again, and I've probably already asked it this year. Where's the disconnect? No, I'm serious.
No, I know you're serious, but I mean, the thought in my head answering that is, which one? There's disconnects all over this organization.
So they're very private about, within the hallowed walls of the Advocate Center.
Yes.
They have a general manager that doesn't speak to the press.
He does not.
So unfortunately for Billy, these questions are asked to him because he currently is their only reference. And Billy, I got to give him credit. He doesn't dodge the question, he could easily say, that's a question for Arturos. I can't answer that for you.
It's a good point.
But he doesn't do it.
Yeah.
He makes an attempt to at least answer it from his perspective. So that's kind of how we have to make these evaluations and how we look at this team moving forward. So, okay, great. You beat San Antonio. This is what we're trying to do. You're not saying play in, but if you're trying to win every game, then you should be evaluated on trying to win every game. So then how do you explain, I was not working. I was watching on television. I can honestly say I only watched the first half. No need to watch the second half.
Yeah. Don't think you missed much.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to the bad starts, we can get more into that in a minute, but the fact that we've talked about identity-wise, I think we know what they have done and established something that's honestly kind of impressive offensively, because it's a total 180 for what they've been doing.
Sure.
But when their shots aren't falling early on, then everything else falls apart. And that's something that Billy's also touched on, Dave. It's like, well, if we can't keep pace with our opponent out of the gate, then we're sunk.
Yeah, then we're screwed. And the play on the floor disagrees with the statement that Billy made right there. And I think I'm only saying this because I think this leads to the disconnect. Because the Bulls, going into that game against the Pacers, in the third quarter, they're first in the NBA in points. In the fourth quarter, they're third in the NBA in points. So they're not a first half team. They're definitely a second half squad. So with Billy talking about these slow starts and we can't get off to them, they do a really good job getting back in it and, coming and attacking these teams in the second half. I mean, the Spurs game is the first thing that comes to mind. We thought that game was good and done, and the Bulls did not. Even in the last game that they played, there was a minor comeback for them when they got the lead to 14. And when they got to 14, the Pacers said, "Oh yeah, we're better. So yeah, we'll attack you." But the Bulls have been a second half squad, and the New York Knicks on Derrick Rose night is another example of that.
Yeah,
this is what they've done all season long. Personally, is come back in the second half and do their thing. They haven't really been great in the first half, as far as playing, to their level. Something happens in the second half, and I think what happens is Zach LaVine and Kobe White, those guys happen in the second half, and there you go. They ball out. But as a team and as a unit, they struggle in that first half. Nobody truly stands out if Zach isn't doing this thing with those 5 minutes left to go in that second quarter, or if Vooch isn't, doing what he's been doing all season long. They're going to go into the half with, being down. I don't know how many times they've done that this season. I'm sure the numbers are out there. But for me, they're a second half squad, Matt. Like, I think that's part of the disconnect for me.
Well, they are very much not a first quarter squad.
They definitely are not.
Because that theory checks out when Uncle Will said, "Hey, let's talk about their bad starts in pregame tonight." I said, "Okay." Whenever Will says something like, "I want to talk about this," I'm always like, "Let me go look at some numbers." So there you see the Bulls just 21st in the NBA in first quarter scoring. Points wise, their -2.5 is the 27th ranked plus minus for first quarters across the NBA. And field goal percentage and 3-point percentage, not there either, 26th and 24th. Then they bounce back. Second quarters, 6th, 4th, and 4th. When you talk about points scored, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, the plus minus still just negative 0.9 in the bottom third. Third quarter is also very respectable. Actually, the only quarter where the Bulls have a plus minus in the positives, while also being first in the NBA in third quarter points scored. Respectable field goal percentage yet again. And then fourth quarter's a little bit of a dip back to the negatives, but still 5th in points scored. Not great from the field, but respectable behind the 3-point line. But it's really those first quarter numbers that stand out, Will. It's bad.
Yeah, and which is surprising.
Said no. Brilliant. Sorry, Will.
Thank you.
Sorry, brilliant.
Peck special right there.
Well done.
Why is that when you know that's an issue? No, listen, I'm not in the locker room, but it just comes across as you're not prepared. You're not ready. What takes you so long to become engaged? You know what the game plan is. A coach shares it with you. You just see, and this is where I keep saying, and I know some people may look at this as harsh, but this to me is, where's that extension of the coaching staff on the floor?
Correct. Yes.
That does all the work for the coaches so they don't have to.
Oh, God. Yes, Will. Absolutely right. Usually that comes in the form of a point guard for Billy Donovan.
Right, and I've always thought that
Lonzo, but
Lonzo's only playing, basically 20 minutes a game.
Correct.
18 to 20 minutes a game. And that's where I keep talking about, for Kobe to make the next step, I want to see that leadership, that vocal leadership of, and this is the hard part. I get it. The mentality of players have changed. One of the things I learned from Phil Jackson,
Flex.
Greg Popovich was,
Flex.
Don't be worried about if your teammates like you. Be more concerned if they respect you or not. Because if they don't respect you, then if they act like they like you, they're phonies.
That's a life lesson.
But that's also something that you might want to look in the mirror and be like, interesting. Why do they not respect me? What am I doing that's not, up to their level, or they're agree or disagree with?
Yeah.
So that's where you talk about chemistry, and that's what's so difficult in the NBA and the NFL and the NHL is you don't necessarily need the top 12 players to have the best team. You just have to figure out, amongst other things, is how do guys fit into chemistry, the makeup of a team. And that's what hurt so bad about losing the kid to OKC, because of how well he fit into the makeup of this team, and what this team was really missing he provided.
Talking about Caruso.
Yeah. And now that he's gone, they've been exposed again, and they really, I hate to say it, don't have an answer. Now, I think his defense is less than average, but because of Caruso's loss and who Giddey got traded for, I think unfortunately for Giddey, that's who he gets compared to.
Sure.
And I think that's unfair. But, he had an article today in the Tribune that, he spoke about how he has to do better. So, okay, then your bar is what? And what should we hold you to? Because you have shown some improvement, but it's, it's kind of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Opposites attract.
And that's where we need to consistently, if we're going to talk about integrity, and nobody's told us to lose games, and we're evaluating you on winning games, where's the consistency night in and night out? But I could have asked this question last year, the year before that. So that's where you kind of get frustrated when you're like, when are we going to see some changes? When are things, again, when is, when you see this stuff on social media, when is the Bulls stock is rising? The next week, rising. The next week, rising. I'm curious to not when it's rising down. I just, because it's just, again, I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but we should hold this organization to different standards because they have 6 championships under their belt. And that should be the ultimate goal every single year, not, hey, we're looking at 5 years from now, putting ourselves in a position to live up to that standard.
I mean, when AK never really came in and took the jobs, they said, like, we want to go back to the playoffs. We want to go back to being a competitive team. Because, the previous, at least coaching staff and that, like the Zach Lowry Wendell thing failed to get off the ground. We're going to come in here. They make a bold move for Vooch. They have that big bonanza offseason where they bring in DeMar Alonzo Caruso. And for a half a season, that stock arrow was pointed up. But
absolutely.
It's been mostly them either being too timid, stubborn, incapable to flex and pivot away from that. They finally did, but they like false started themselves on actually finally pivoting away from that to try to once again climb up to being a respected and respectable competitive organization. Yeah.
It's really what it is. Yeah.
I mean, like there was you said like is the stock rising or falling? And I mean, I first saw it because Goat Quote tweeted it. Came on Twitter from somebody, Sravan NBA. Comparison of wins last season to this season through January 9th. So the team's logo is located where their win total is last season, and an arrow either pointing to the right for more wins thus far this season or to the left for fewer wins. Okay. And obviously, so like Cavs are top of the charts.
Sure.
They were a winning team last season, but way more so this season.
First down. And
then right there at about, spot 20, 21, right around where they are in the NBA standings, there's just a Bulls logo that hasn't moved.
Yeah.
That's how you identify Bulls stock.
Yeah, that's it.
It's not as valuable as other teams who are trying. And other teams' stock is lower because they're going in a different direction.
Well, if they're worth $4 billion, what would they be worth if they're winning?
10.
Oh, Will.
That's my fist pounding argument that I always try to make to them if they're listening. Hello, Jerry, you there?
Hi.
Imagine how much money they'd make
cash
if they spent a bit more time and effort and yes, money.
Here's a hand. Here's a fist.
Putting a good team on the floor because Bulls fans eat that shit up.
Oh my God. Yum, 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 yum. Starving, dog. You hear me?
Would you like to take a guess what they are the last 10?
Wins, losses?
Yes.
Oh, I guarantee you they're 5-5.
Yeah, I'm about to say it's got to be 5-5, man.
That is correct.
You know what I mean?
Of course they are. So, and I saw somebody in the comments talking about it earlier, and like a theory that they use for betting. The Bulls, after the loss to Indy, have now fallen to 3 games under 500.
Mm-hmm.
So you can bet your butt that they're going to win tonight to go back up to 2 games under 500, to then maybe go back to 3 and then down to 4 for a second, and then back up to 3. But this is how it works.
But Fish made a good point. The next 5 games are at home.
They are.
Yes, but we don't play well at home.
They do not.
Correct.
I think they are 10-9 on the road coming into tonight's game and still have a losing record at home.
That was talked about in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
You got to protect that home court.
It was a serious thing. We discussed it many times. Like, it was a serious thing about playing at home, and they continue to just be average to below average.
That they do. But you know who's not average or below average? Far from it. Zach LaVine. Let's talk about Zach for a minute, y'all, because
great segue, by the way. Just phenomenal work there.
That's what he does. Segue Peck is always in effect.
Segue Peck?
Segue Peck.
I'm sure y'all handled
I think that segue ran into the wall.
While it's gone, but they are back. A very respectable season, even to the point where we have talked about him getting at least some sort of acknowledgement, votes-wise, all-star for all-star selection. He was not, yet again, in the top 10 of East all-star voting returns that came around the other day. Maybe he gets a coach's reserve selection. I think he still even has an outside shot at that, if at all. But you look at what he's done this season, across the full season, the numbers are very respectable. Just over 23 points a game, shooting over 51% from the field, 44.4 from 3, and respectable free throw shooting. You look at his last 10 games, that's climbed to 26 per game on even better shooting splits. His last 5 games, he's averaging over 29 a game, shooting 56% from the field. And has also bumped up his assist numbers. You see there from 5 to 5.8. He is, I mean, call this a hot streak. Is this the, I think I saw Goat talking about it Wednesday night in your postgame. He's one of only a handful of players, like less than 5, who have a streak of 30-plus games this season at 4 or greater. And it's like Giannis and Joker and one other person and Zach.
Correct. That's exactly right. And he's going for his 5th tonight. This is exactly what we talked about in the previous pregame when you weren't here. Just going over Zach's numbers. and what they have been, the things he is averaging career highs in. You know what I mean? Like field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, efficient field goal percentage. Like he's at career high levels. At when we were doing the pregame, that's where he was. He was at career high levels to that point. And I always find it interesting because the scoring, yeah, you don't see a real, change. The ticket's it's a little less, you know what I mean, than what we're used to from Zach. But the efficiency is off the charts for that young man. And so it comes across so much better when you watch it on the floor. We already knew he could score. Everybody knew this. You knew you could put the ball in the basket. It's about the efficiency of it. It's about the lack of the turnovers. It's about the not dribbling the ball off your foot. It's about not forcing things. It's about knowing when the double team's coming, making the right read. Like he started doing those things a lot this season, and we haven't seen him force it. And I said this last show, we haven't seen him forcing the ball a lot. The only time we saw him force it was the last game when they were down 30. He's like, well, somebody's got to score. Mm-hmm. And that's when you started seeing him making those mistakes again immediately. You started seeing him dribbling off his knee. You started seeing him, the defense collapsing. He didn't know what to do with the ball. That's because he's trying to score because nobody else wanted to or nobody else could. But overall, Zach has been outstanding on the court and off the court. Outstanding. Everything we wanted him to do and to be in previous seasons, he is showing it this season. He is standing on his word because he talked about it when he came in that press conference. He won this season from day one of that press conference, man. Like he was in, and he let you know he was in. He said all the right things, and he's done all the right things. So Zach's been absolutely amazing, man. I have no qualm with him.
Well, I mean, being nitpicky, the only thing I would say is just I'd like to see more consistent effort on the defensive end of the floor.
How dare you, Will?
Offensively, he's been great. I think you make a very valid point when he just, there's the old saying, let the game come to you.
Yes.
Don't try too hard.
Mm-hmm.
But when Zach actually relaxes, and as you talked about, the game, when he's playing well and in the right frame of mind with just the right amount of effort
mm-hmm.
and not too far, on one side or the other, the game looks effortless for him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard to say, but I think he's, it increased his range.
Yeah.
At the same time, the level of difficulty of some of his shots is just incredible.
Yeah.
To still have that efficiency because of what defenses know he can and is capable of and try to slow him down.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's just unfortunately he's not getting the recognition, nor will he get the recognition he deserves unless the coach – now, isn't it the actual coach of the team?
It's the coach of the all-star team, I believe, who makes the selections for the reserve players.
But also if somebody gets hurt,
yes,
it's the coach, not the league, that fills that spot, correct?
I think so.
That sounds right.
Confirm that real quick.
I could have sworn it was Adam Silver specifically.
It's Adam who fills that role?
It.
Interesting.
Don't quote me if I'm wrong, but that I think is how it's been done in the past.
Okay.
Commissioner Adam Silver selects replacements for injured players unable to participate in an all-star game.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, Katie.
As Katie said. So.
Katie's done for the night. Check.
We got who's producing post-game? Will, you want to produce?
I mean, I just
you give it a shot.
Tell me what button to press.
The red one.
I'm good at executing a plan.
I believe that.
But
triangle
I
offense.
think that's. Listen, we've talked about this all year.
Mm-hmm.
You've come up with the perfect term.
Fun bad.
Because this team, more times than not, is fun to watch. But there's a lot of bad things that they do that kind of aggravate the crap out of you.
Yeah.
But you see performances by Zach, performances by Vooch, performances by Kobe. Is Io back tonight?
Io is not yet back tonight. There was an update from Billy's pregame media availability. According to our Will to Go Gottlieb, Billy said that Io is, quote, or that they are, quote, pretty optimistic that Io can return at some point during this homestand. As you pointed out, they're at home for the next, 4 games. However, Sunday, their next game after tonight against DeMar and the Kings, he called unlikely as far as Io's return.
Okay.
So sometime next week, it sounds like.
But there's plenty of things there's plenty of reasons to watch this team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But last thing on Zach, because of how well he is playing, and now we're starting to get to that halfway point of the season as far as games played, even though we're still a month away from All-Star break. You would think that there is enough interest. Not saying that teams are ready to pull the trigger, but there's enough interest that if Arturas and Mark can get creative, they can make a trade happen.
Can they get creative is the question, because I've yet to see them do these things. But you're right. That's what needs to happen, Will, and that's how it should go down in a regular organization.
But also, I will say this, okay? This is where the value of an agent comes in.
Okay.
Because a lot of teams, when a agent calls or a player says, I think it's in my best interest for me to go elsewhere. And the team agrees. More times than not, they agree, but they say, hey, we're not going to make any calls, but if your agent wants to do the legwork and bring us a deal that we like, we'll pull the trigger. Okay. So it's not just, hey, is it Arturas and Mark? This is also about Zach's agent. Can he also, does he have enough juice to help Zach and the Bulls make a trade that inevitably Mark and Arturas will agree to do, but yet Zach's agent does all the work for him?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Zach is a clutch player, right? Like he's with Rich Paul's agency.
Very much so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, the whole, he sat with the injury and was attending some college game courtside with Rich Paul when all of the trade stuff was really starting to bubble up last season. And they were wearing matching B Clutch hoodies.
Yes.
And Bulls fans were like, well, that's kind of a stinger in the gooch, because you barely played the season. When you did play, you did not look clutchy at all.
That was here at the United Center, was it not?
Yes, it was.
Oh, it was at the UC? Oh,
it was at the UC.
I forgot about that.
It definitely was at the UC.
That makes it look even worse.
Yeah.
As far as Zach and his all-star candidacy, Scott in the comments pointing out one debate is, should Zach be an all-star or should the Cavs have 3? We were talking on a recent show about that year that the Hawks had 4, but with Cleveland, I assume you're referring to the fact that Donovan Mitchell probably getting in there. He is second among East guards right now behind LaMelo, number 1. I told y'all LaMelo would be up there despite the Hornets record.
Why do you doubt it?
Evan Mobley currently 8th among East front court. But Darius Garland down there at 9 among East guards, 7 spots behind Mitchell, and this is NBA All-Star voting by at least the fan portion. Jordan Poole, who the Bulls will face tonight, he was game time decision with that hip injury. He is going to get the green light and start.
Let's go, Jordan.
He is above Darius Garland in All-Star voting.
He is.
How?
He's more famous.
Why?
It's fame, man. It's fandom and fame at the same time.
I get these young fans.
Like you said, LaMelo. Same way.
Yeah, because wasn't it the other day I got the alert that, hey, today's triple voting. Your 1 vote counts 3.
And you immediately voted.
No. But if you have a fan base, if a organization like the Cavs really does a heavy media push and social push that particular day, you could see somebody really move up the ladder in one day because the amount of votes each. So it's listen, it's the All-Star game. The fans always have to be included.
Yes.
That's who they want to see. It's not so much about the voting that we need to be concerned about. It's the product during the All-Star game we need to be concerned about. But that's for another day.
Agree on that, too. Yes, that is for another day. All-Star weekend, not that far away. We have reached January 10th. Real quick, before you get out of here, I did mention that Jordan Poole was given the green light after being tagged game time decision. Your starting 5 for Washington, it's basically the best they can do, when you remove their long-term injuries, like Sadiq Bey with the ACL, who's all, still out and will remain out. Jordan Poole, Bub Carrington, Bilal Coulibaly, Kyle Kuzma, and their second overall pick from the 2024 NBA draft, Alex Sarr, all out there. Of course, their Vooch, their second-round pick from 2 years ago, remains out, Tristan Vooch. Malcolm Brogdon remains out with the foot. Bagley, the third, out with the knee. But Poole, Sarr, Rashawn Holmes, Johnny Davis, all questionable on their injury report coming in tonight, all given the green light. Bulls, meanwhile, same starting 5 we've come to expect in Ayo's absence. You got Kobe and Giddey in the backcourt. Zach, Patrick Williams, still hanging on to that starting spot for now, and Vooch.
Yay.
Can't take this Wizards team lightly. We saw what happened when they do on New Year's Day.
Sarr has been playing better. He is now ranked number 1 as far as Rookie of the Year candidate by NBA.com. So he's climbing that ladder. He's playing a little better. He played pretty solid against the Bulls.
And his playmaking has improved.
Yes,
from
very
even
much so.
Game 1 of his rookie year. He's finding good looks for his teammates much better already.
And both times the Wizards game, when they played the Bulls, they came out hot. Both times. They came out and
Bulls got off
and
to
they
a
took
slow
over
start?
in that first quarter.
Imagine that.
News, Will.
Okay.
News.
Imagine that.
News.
Trap game, Bulls. Watch out. You're on your home floor against the worst team in the league. Try not to screw this one up. We'll be right back here for post-game after Bulls Wizards. If you're itchy for some CHGO content before that, I think Blackhawks had a 6 p.m. puck drop out in Detroit, so they'll probably be firing up their post-game a little bit before ours. So tune into that, and we got some college football action to watch on the side TV.
Hook 'em.
Great night of sports. Hit the like button on your way out.
Let's go,
if
Joey.
you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to that CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We'll see y'all for post-game. Peace.
Hook 'em.
We all silly like the mayor.